You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. Alicia had been working as the front desk manager at an upscale fitness club for about a year now. Every time I'd ask how her day was, she'd light up, always acting thrilled to go in. I figured that was a good sign. She liked her job, she was happy. But now, I wasn't so sure. That night, the staff appreciation party wasn't just at some restaurant with some drinks. No, it was at her boss's condo, a place that came with its own sauna and plunge pool. It was supposed to be laid back, casual. But when Alicia warned me that I might feel out of place, I should have taken it as the red flag it was. Instead, I brushed it off, thinking she was just being considerate of my interests. "Promise me you'll behave if guys get touchy," she said when we talked about it. The way she said it made me uneasy, like it was an expectation. I promised. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this whole thing was off. I showed up, trying to keep things light. The moment I stepped into the venue, I felt out of place. Everyone was all smiles and laughter, but the energy was different from what I expected. I walked up to Alicia and immediately met Tanya, her coworker. She smirked at me when Alicia introduced me as her man. Tanya wasn't subtle. It wasn't a friendly look. It felt like she was sizing me up, like I wasn't supposed to be here. "Nice to meet you," Tanya said, but there was something in her voice that didn't quite match the words. Alicia smiled awkwardly, then quickly disappeared with Tanya to get drinks, leaving me standing alone by the punch bowl. I took a drink, leaned against the wall, and tried to blend in. I wasn't really into fitness talk or whatever, but I wasn't here for that. I was here because I cared about Alicia, or at least that's what I told myself. I gave it about an hour. I kept looking around, but I didn't see her. I sent her a quick text. Nothing. A few more minutes passed, and I started asking around, trying to find out where she was. Everyone seemed pretty distracted, laughing and chatting, but no one could tell me where Alicia went. Then finally, after more than an hour, she stumbled back in. I say stumbled because she wasn't walking normally. She was tipsy, and there was something about the way she hung on to another trainer, Kyle, that made my stomach twist. Her eyes found mine, but she didn't even acknowledge me. She didn't look embarrassed. In fact, she barely looked at me. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me, sharp with irritation. "Where have you been?" "You've been gone for over an hour." She just shrugged, flicking her hair out of her face like I hadn't even spoken to her. "Oh, she said breezily, as if she'd just stepped out for a second. "Just catching up with Kyle. What's up?" I felt my jaw tighten. "We agreed you'd let me know where you were going. You didn't even—" She interrupted me, her voice sweet but distant. "It's fine, I'm fine. Don't be so serious." She laughed, but it was off, not the genuine kind I was used to hearing from her. I felt a sinking pit in my stomach. Something wasn't right, and I could feel it in my bones, the way she was acting, the way she kept brushing me off. But I kept my cool. I had to. "I think I'm gonna head out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'll see you later, Alicia." Her face dropped for just a second, and I saw a flicker of something. Guilt, maybe? But it was gone so fast that I convinced myself I imagined it. "Wait," she said suddenly, grabbing my arm just as I turned to walk away. "Don't go yet. We're just having fun, okay?" Her words were softer now, like she was trying to pull me back into the atmosphere, but there was no warmth in her tone. It was all surface level. I felt it, but I couldn't explain it. I pulled my arm away, a little harsher than I meant to. "Have fun, Alicia. I'm not really your vibe, apparently." I didn't wait for her response. I just turned and walked out of the room, the soft murmur of voices behind me fading as I left. I hadn't expected things to feel this heavy when I stepped outside. The night had taken a sharp turn, but I was still processing it all as I followed them to Brett's condo. Alicia had disappeared with Tanya and the others, and I had no idea what was really going on, but something was gnawing at me. It was like my gut was telling me that if I didn't follow, if I didn't show up, I might be missing something huge. I drove over, staying a few steps behind the rest of the group. They were too caught up in their conversation, laughing, talking about some post-party plans. I couldn't make sense of it. All I knew was that I was out of place, and the more I saw Alicia's disregard for me, the more I resented being here. I parked and got out of the truck, looking up at the high-rise condo. The place was sleek, the kind of building that made it clear the people inside didn't struggle for cash. I didn't belong here, not anymore, but I was here now, and I needed to see it for myself. The elevator ride up felt like forever, and I wondered if Alicia even noticed me anymore. As I walked into the condo, the lights from the city filled the windows, and I could hear the muffled sounds of voices, laughter, clinking glasses. I took a deep breath, scanning the space. Brett's condo was exactly what I imagined, luxurious but sterile, everything polished, everything pristine. Then, my eyes found her. Alicia was already in the sauna, a bikini barely covering her, sitting between Brett and Kyle. The image hit me like a punch to the stomach. I didn't need to be close to see the way she was touching them both, her legs draped over one of them, a hand resting on the other. They were all laughing, close, too close. It was like they hadn't even noticed me walk in. Tanya caught my gaze and walked over, her smile a little too knowing. "You know," she said, her tone light, almost too casual, "Alicia's been sleeping with both of them since she got hired." I stood frozen. For a second, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh or scream, but I didn't. I just stared at her. Tanya just shrugged. "She loves you, but, she needs excitement, you know? More than just you can give her." The words didn't fully register. My mind kept replaying her words, and I tried to focus, to hold on to some shred of composure. I didn't know what to do with the information, but I sure as hell wasn't staying here, not anymore. I turned and made my way upstairs. I needed to change, to get out of this goddamn mess. But as I walked up the stairs, I couldn't stop myself. I knew what I was about to do, and I hated myself for it. The glass door to the sauna was just a few feet away, and I didn't think. My legs moved before my mind could catch up. I leaned against the doorframe and watched them. There they were, all three of them, laughing, touching. She didn't even notice. Didn't notice me, didn't even care. I wasn't sure if I was shaking from anger or disbelief. Alicia caught my reflection in the glass. I could see her stiffen for a second, then she quickly rearranged herself, her legs falling to the side. She pulled herself upright like nothing had happened. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, just watching her, watching them. And then she looked me dead in the eye. "Hey, you made it." Her voice was casual, too casual, like she didn't just get caught in the act. Like she didn't care that I was standing there, watching her betray me. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to yell, wanted to storm in and drag her out of there, but something stopped me. Instead, I turned away. I couldn't look at her anymore. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to get them here. I made my way back to my truck. The cold air hit my face, but it wasn't enough to cool the fire inside me. I didn't even know what I felt anymore. Hurt, rage, disappointment, all of it. It didn't matter. I had enough. I pulled Alicia out of the sauna, away from Brett and Kyle, into a small guest room tucked off to the side. The door clicked shut behind us, and for a moment, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. Alicia blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden shift. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice low but almost too casual. I didn't waste time. I pulled out my phone and hit play on the video I'd filmed earlier. The footage was short, but enough to make the truth undeniable. There she was, laughing, leaning into Brett's chest, her hands touching Kyle's thigh. Her eyes widened when she saw it. "Wait, what is—" "You've been sleeping with them both, haven't you?" I cut her off, my voice tight, full of anger. "You've been lying to me, telling me everything's fine, but behind my back, you've been playing games with Brett and Kyle." She took a step back, her expression faltering, then regained her composure. "It's not like that," she said, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Don't lie to me." Tanya already filled in the blanks. "I know what's been happening." She bit her lip, looking away like she couldn't meet my eyes anymore. It's just fun, okay? It doesn't mean anything. You know that. It's just, I don't know. I needed something more, and they gave it to me." I stared at her, completely stunned. "So, this whole time, everything we've built together, it didn't mean anything to you? Not even enough to tell me the truth?" Her eyes softened a bit, but she still wouldn't look me in the face. "I didn't know how to tell you," she admitted quietly. "I love you, I do, but I need excitement. You're so good to me, but sometimes I just get bored, you know?" I didn't think it would hurt. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone at her, to throw everything in her face, but I didn't. I just stood there, my hands clenched at my sides, fighting to hold on to whatever dignity was left. "You should have told me, Alicia. We could have worked through this, but instead, you've been sneaking around behind my back." My voice trembled with barely contained fury. "I've given you everything, everything, and this is what I get? You screw me over and think it's no big deal?" She looked up at me, a faint trace of regret on her face, but not enough. "I never meant to hurt you, but I didn't know what else to do." I shook my head, the disbelief still seeping through me. "Well, you've done enough." I reached for my ring, the symbol of everything we'd shared, and slipped it off my finger. "It's over, Alicia." I placed it into her palm, the weight of it, the finality of it, sinking in. She didn't immediately say anything, just looked at the ring in her hand, then up at me, her eyes brimming with something that looked like shame. But it wasn't enough. I pulled off her ring too, handing it back to her without another word. "I'll be talking to a lawyer on Monday. You should probably do the same." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She opened her mouth a few times, like she wanted to say something, but the reality of it seemed to finally hit her. The silence stretched between us, and I walked out past her, through the door where everyone else was still mingling. I looked at the group, some of them staring, probably waiting for an explanation. I met their eyes, my gaze cold and unwavering. "She's your problem now," I said, my voice steady, before I turned and left. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I didn't answer Alicia's calls on the way home, not a single one. I didn't even glance at my phone. My hands were tight on the steering wheel, and the more I thought about what had happened, the more I wanted to punch something. The moment I stepped into the house, I went straight to the closet, grabbed every last one of her things, and started tossing them into trash bags. Clothes, shoes, the small knickknacks she'd accumulated over the years. All of it went in. I wasn't wasting time. I couldn't stand the thought of her leaving her things behind, as if nothing had happened. I was done. Her stuff was all in the back of my truck within an hour. I didn't even let myself feel the weight of it, didn't give myself time to second guess. I just kept moving, like I was moving on autopilot. The house felt emptier now, quieter. It was like the air had shifted, the weight of her presence no longer pressing down on me. I changed the locks first, the front door, the garage, then reset the garage code. I didn't even check the security system. When I was finished, I stood there for a moment, looking at the house. A part of me felt lighter. The next morning, the phone rang while I was eating breakfast. I ignored it the first time, but it kept ringing. Alicia. I finally picked it up, but didn't say a word at first. "Hello?" she asked, her voice sounding strained. "Speak to my lawyer," I said flatly, hanging up before she could reply. I wasn't in the mood for apologies or explanations. There was no going back now. I needed to focus on cleaning up the mess she'd made. Not an hour later, another call came through. This time, it was Tanya. "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, Alicia's, she's a wreck," Tanya said, her voice softer than usual. "She's been calling me nonstop, saying she doesn't know what to do." I didn't care. "She made her bed," I said, my voice cold. "Let her lie in it." "I know, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. She's taking it pretty hard." "I don't care how hard she's taking it," I snapped. She had her chance, and she blew it. I hung up without another word. I was done with all of it. I didn't owe anyone explanations or sympathy. A few hours later, I sat down at my desk and started looking into divorce laws. No kids, no shared assets. It was straightforward. I was fine with it. I hadn't realized how much this whole situation had worn on me until now. The last few years, everything had been about Alicia. I'd sacrificed my time, my energy, and my peace to make her happy. But I'd been blind. I should have seen it coming. The lies, the distractions, the excuses. Now, it was all on me to untangle the mess. I spent the rest of the day gathering everything I needed to move forward. The paperwork, the divorce forms. There was no room for hesitation now. I was done. I didn't even flinch when the next call came through. It was Alicia again, and I didn't pick up. By evening, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. I hadn't thought about much else except getting this over with. The doorbell rang. My stomach twisted. I stood up, irritated. What now? I opened the door, only to find the delivery guy handing me an envelope. It was from the lawyer. Everything was moving forward. A small part of me almost felt a sense of relief. The text came through at the same time, both anonymous. The first one was a clip from the night at the sauna, showing Alicia, Brett, and Kyle. The footage was clear, candid, and damning. The camera was shaky, but the laughter in the background and the way Alicia was draped over Brett's lap made it impossible to misinterpret. They joked into the camera, their words sharp and mocking. "Guess he wasn't good enough to hang out with us," Brett said, a smirk in his voice. Kyle chimed in, "Yeah, he's probably out there waiting for her to finish with us." The words cut through me like a knife. I felt my jaw clench as I watched the video, but I couldn't look away. This was proof. The second text was more of the same, another video. This time, a third guy I didn't recognize was in the shot, and they were all laughing together. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It was the way they'd turned it into a joke, like I didn't matter, like I was nothing. I saved both videos without hesitation. I didn't know how I would use them yet, but they were important, and I wasn't about to let them slip away. The next day I met with Denise, my attorney. She sat across from me in her office, the sound of a clicking pen tapping on her desk in the quiet. I showed her the videos. "Here's the evidence," I said, my voice level, despite the rage simmering underneath. Denise leaned forward, reviewing the footage. Her expression didn't shift much, but I could tell she was processing. "These could work in your favor. You have a solid case for alienation of affection, but we need more than just a few videos. We need to show it was intentional, that Alicia knew what she was doing." She paused, tapping the pen against her lips. "I think we can make this stick." I could feel the tension in my chest. The idea of fighting this legally, of dragging Brett and Alicia through the mud, didn't sit well with me, but I had to do it. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. "I want to serve Brett with the papers at his job," I said. "I don't care if it makes things uglier. He deserves it." Denise nodded, her eyes sharp. "That's exactly what we're going to do. Let's make sure this guy knows what happens when you mess with someone's life." The next day I followed through. Brett was served at his gym, right in the middle of a busy workday. I couldn't be there to see it, but I got a call almost immediately from him. His voice was full of that defensive swagger, but it didn't take long for him to get to the point. "What the hell is this, man?" Brett yelled through the phone. "Alicia told me you guys had an open relationship. This is bullshit." "Doesn't matter what she told you," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I'm suing for alienation of affection. You knew exactly what you were doing, and I'm not backing down." There was a long silence on the other end. Then, the low growl of Brett's voice cut through. "You're making a big mistake." "Am I?" I asked, the words slipping out more coldly than I intended. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you messed around with my girlfriend. Now you get to deal with the consequences." He hung up without another word. I didn't feel satisfaction. There wasn't relief, just a strange emptiness, like I was finally doing something I should have done months ago, but it was too late to change anything. Denise filed the papers. A restraining order was next, and things were about to escalate. I didn't expect Brett's call, but when it came, I could hear the anger dripping through the receiver. "What the hell, man?" he spat, his voice thick with rage. "You've got some nerve. You think serving me those papers is going to fix anything? You've made a huge mistake." I leaned back in my chair, pressing my fingers to my temple. "It's not a mistake, Brett. You're the one who crossed the line, not me." "Yeah, well, I didn't sign up for this." His voice was louder now, getting more frantic. "Alicia told me everything was cool. You guys had some sort of open relationship, and I didn't know what was going on." I gripped the phone harder, keeping my cool. "Alicia can say whatever she wants. It doesn't change the fact that you both took something that wasn't yours. I'm not the one who fucked this up. You and she did." Brett didn't respond immediately, but I could hear the rage building in him. I knew what was coming next. He was going to make threats. He had nothing else left. "Let me tell you something, man," he said after a long pause. "You don't know who you're messing with. I can make this a lot harder for you." "You can try, but it won't change anything," I replied, cutting him off. "I'm not backing down, Brett. I'm suing you for everything." The line went dead. I sat there for a moment, feeling a sense of finality settle in. This wasn't just about Alicia anymore. This was about principle, about standing up for myself when I'd been so damn blind for so long. 2 days later, I got a call from Denise. "Brett is playing dirty now," she said, her voice tight. "He's threatening you. We've filed for a restraining order, but you need to be prepared. This could get ugly." I wasn't worried about him. He could throw all the tantrums he wanted. What worried me more was what he might do next. But I had my lawyer on it, and I had the video footage. As far as I was concerned, this was already over for him. Saturday night, I got a call I wasn't expecting. The doorbell rang, and by the time I walked up to it, the pounding had already started. Hard knocks. The kind of force that made me feel like I was in a bad movie. I opened the door. It was Brett, and standing behind him was another guy I didn't recognize. They were both livid. "What the hell is this, man?" Brett yelled, his voice barely contained. "You're gonna keep me locked out of your life like some fucking animal?" I stepped back, not intimidated. "You're on my property, Brett. I don't want you here." He ignored me, shoving his way past me. "You want to do this the hard way, huh? Fine. Let's do it." I stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "Get off my property, now." That's when he shoved me, hard. He caught me off guard, but I didn't hesitate. I pushed him back, and that's when the second guy lunged. I reached for my phone and dialed 911. They didn't even know what was coming. "Police now," I told the dispatcher. "I've got 2 men threatening me at my house. I need help." By the time the cops showed up, Brett and his buddy were screaming at each other, but they knew it was over. The officers arrested them both, and as they were let out in cuffs, I heard Brett shouting at me, "This isn't over. You'll regret this." I didn't respond. I just closed the door and locked it. News of Brett's arrest spread quickly. Within a few days, it was all over social media, and the local news picked it up. The gym where he worked took a serious hit. Membership cancellations were through the roof. Brett had messed with the wrong guy, and now it was costing him. I wasn't going to enjoy watching him burn, but I couldn't deny there was a small part of me that felt a sense of justice. I had been the one wronged here, and now the pieces were falling into place. The phone didn't stop ringing for days. Brett's friends, the guys from the gym, all of them trying to spin it into a story where they were the victims. But I didn't care. I was done with all of it. This was just the beginning. The gym's reputation was tarnished. Brett and Kyle would be running from their mess, and I'd make sure they never got away with it. Weeks passed after the chaos of Brett's arrest and the fallout with Alicia. The legal proceedings dragged on, and I kept my distance, focusing on the things I could control. But then Denise called me with news I wasn't expecting. Alicia's lawyer got the judge to order 6 counseling sessions, she told me over the phone. Apparently, she's pregnant. I don't know if the baby's yours, but they're pushing for it. I stood there for a second, letting her words sink in. Pregnant? With my mind already overloaded, the idea of a baby, my baby, seemed too much. I didn't even know if I could trust her anymore, let alone the situation she was in. "She doesn't even know who the father is, Denise," I said, frustration creeping in. "She's been with half the guys in the gym. I don't know if I can even believe her at this point." "I understand," Denise replied, "but we've got to do what we can here. The judge will want to see you're being responsible, especially if she's claiming this is your child. You might not want to reconcile, but you can at least show you're not running from your obligations." "I'm not running from anything," I snapped. "But I'm not going back to her, Denise. That's not happening." "Of course not," Denise said firmly. "But you still need to go to these sessions. You'll need to be there for documentation, at least until we get more clarity." I didn't like it, but I agreed. The first session was set for that week. I walked into the small counseling office with an air of reluctance, already bracing for the emotional roller coaster I was about to endure. The therapist, a middle-aged woman with glasses, greeted me in a neutral tone. Alicia was already seated in one of the chairs, looking nothing like the woman I had spent 4 years with. She seemed smaller, quieter. I wasn't sure if it was the pregnancy or if she was just tired from all the drama, but the change in her was noticeable. The therapist opened the session with a few general questions before getting to the hard stuff. "Let's start with why we're here today," she said, addressing both of us. "Alicia, can you tell me a little about why you're seeking counseling?" Alicia hesitated, her eyes darting to me before looking down at her hands in her lap. I made some mistakes," she said quietly, her voice cracking slightly. "I don't know where I went wrong. I thought everything would be fine, but it wasn't." The therapist nodded, encouraging her to continue. "And what about you, sir? How do you feel about all of this?" I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to talk. But I didn't want to look like I was backing down from my responsibilities, so I gave a clipped answer. "I'm here because I have to be. I'm not reconciling with Alicia. I've made that clear. But I'm here because I need to figure out where I stand with this baby. I don't even know if it's mine." Alicia flinched at my words, and I could see a flicker of something in her eyes. Maybe hurt, maybe guilt. But I couldn't care. Not anymore. I was too far gone, too broken from everything that had happened. I don't know who the father is, Alicia whispered. It's not just you. It's just been so complicated, and I don't know what I was thinking. The therapist pressed further. Alicia, can you elaborate on that? Have you been involved with other people during your relationship? Alicia hesitated again before admitting, yes. I've been with 3 or 4 dozen guys over the past year. The number hit me like a punch. I'd suspected, but hearing her say it out loud made the weight of it all hit me harder than I could have imagined. 3 or 4 dozen. And she thought I would just accept that? I stared at her, my mind racing. And you think we can just sweep this under the rug? I asked, the anger slipping through my restraint. I've been with you for 4 years, Alicia, and you think I'll sit here while you tell me that? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with regret, but I wasn't buying it anymore. It's not like that, she said softly. I never meant to hurt you, but I wanted something different, something exciting. I don't even know who you are anymore, I muttered, shaking my head. I can't do this. I won't do this. The therapist let the silence hang in the air, and I took a deep breath. It was clear to me now that Alicia was lost. I wasn't sure she ever found herself, but I wasn't going to stick around to watch her destroy what was left of me. I'm done here, I said, standing up abruptly. I don't need to hear any more of your excuses, Alicia. I'm done trying to fix what you broke. I walked out of the session, ignoring the therapist's calls for me to stay, and Alicia's tear-filled eyes as she watched me go. I hadn't heard from Alicia in days, but then Tanya called. Hey, I didn't want you to hear it from anyone else. Tanya's voice was lower than usual, like she was trying to keep this as private as possible. Alicia's in the hospital. It's complications with the pregnancy. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel, but I wasn't about to show up and play the knight in shining armor. I had no desire to comfort her, especially after everything. But there was one thing I could do. She'd need insurance, and I was still the one listed. Fine, I said. I'll swing by to give my insurance info, but that's it. A few hours later, I was standing in front of her hospital room. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear muffled voices inside. I paused, taking a breath, steeling myself before stepping in. Alicia was lying in the bed, propped up with a few pillows. Her face was pale, and her eyes were swollen like she'd been crying for hours. I had to admit, it didn't feel good seeing her like this, but I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel. Empathy? Regret? It was hard to say. She looked up when I stepped in. You came, she whispered, like she couldn't believe it. I'm here to give you my insurance info, Alicia, I said, walking over to the small table and pulling out the forms from my bag. I wasn't going to get pulled into any emotional conversation, not now. Alicia didn't speak for a moment. Her eyes were glassy, but she finally let out a shaky breath. I've been thinking about everything, about us. I'm not here for that, I interrupted, my tone hard. We're done, Alicia. There's no coming back from this. Her voice cracked. I know, but I just want you to know, you were a good partner. You treated me right. I stopped her with a wave of my hand. I don't want to hear it. You don't get to do this now. You don't get to apologize after everything. She bit her lip, her tears slipping down her cheeks. I got caught up in something. I don't even know how I let it happen. I was influenced by people at work, by the idea that cheating was normal, that it was okay. I didn't see how much it would hurt you. I was selfish. I'm sorry. I felt a hollow, empty sensation when she spoke. I wanted to feel something for her, but it wasn't there anymore. The woman I had loved, the one I'd tried to make things work with, was gone, replaced by someone who'd rather sleep around than face the truth. You could have stopped this before it went too far, Alicia, I said, leaning against the wall, still keeping a safe distance. But you didn't. You chose them. You chose that life, not me. I know, she whispered, her voice cracking. I was stupid, but I wasn't thinking clearly. It was never about you, not really. It was just about being someone else, doing something different. I looked at her, the woman who'd once been my everything, and felt nothing. Nothing but the weight of everything I'd given her, everything I'd sacrificed, now gone. I can't even be friends with you, I said bluntly. I'm sorry, but I just can't. Alicia's lip quivered, but she didn't argue. She just nodded, as if she'd known this was coming. I'll talk to my lawyer. I'll stop fighting it, the divorce. I'll make it easy for you. Good, I said, standing up. That's what I want. No more drama, no more lies. I turned to walk out, not looking back. As I left the room, I could hear her sobbing quietly, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. She'd made her choices, and now I was living with the consequences of mine. A month later, Denise got me a large settlement from the gym's owners. The gym itself was tanking thanks to all the bad press, and Brett and Kyle had already left town. They'd been smart to get out while they could. The gym shut down within a few months, a casualty of the mess they'd created. It was over. It was done. But even with everything behind me, there was still that emptiness. That knowledge that I had invested so much of myself into someone who didn't value any of it. I had the closure I needed, and now it was time to move on. A couple of years passed after everything with Alicia. I stayed single for the most part, figuring out what it meant to be on my own again. There were a few dates here and there, but nothing serious, nothing worth mentioning. My head was still tangled up in the mess she left behind. I didn't want to bring anyone else into the chaos until I was really ready. Then I met Rachel. She was a fellow divorcee. Her ex had cheated on her too, so we got it. We didn't need to explain much. We just clicked, sharing stories of our pasts without feeling like we had to defend ourselves. Rachel had this calm, patient energy about her, and we spent months just getting to know each other. Dinners, movies, long walks in the park where we'd talk about everything, from trivial stuff like our favorite music to the bigger things, where we had been, what we'd learned, and how we wanted to move forward. I remember one night, after a quiet dinner at her place, I was sitting on the couch, thinking about how much I appreciated her patience. It had been so long since I'd been able to open up to someone, to really be present with someone. She tilted her head as she looked at me, a little smile tugging at her lips. "You know," she teased, "you're not much of a risk taker. You haven't made a move yet. I thought the guy who'd been through a messy divorce would be a little more daring." I chuckled, leaning back, trying to hide the way I felt the truth of her words. "Maybe I'm just careful. Or maybe I've learned to take things slow," I said, my voice more serious than I intended. "But it's not about just jumping into things. I like you for more than just how you look, Rachel." Her eyes softened, and for a moment she just looked at me, like she saw me for who I was, flaws and all. Then she leaned in, just enough for our faces to be inches apart. "Good," she said with a smile that felt like it wrapped around me. "I like you too, for more than that." And that was it. I smiled, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the weight of my past dragging me down. Maybe it wasn't a huge leap, but it was progress. And for once, I was looking forward to the future, one step at a time.